All right, welcome here to the KSR YouTube channel where Kentucky just drops a heartbreaking 13-12 loss to West Virginia in the Clemson Regional Final. Uh, the season is over for Kentucky, leading 12-7 in the bottom of the eighth inning. Two outs in the inning, and then just every single. I think they used five different pitchers in that inning, and all of them giving up runs, whether it was a bases loaded walk, two-run singles. Man, just really this is probably one of the most like disappointing ways the season can end. Is just having all this momentum. They scored 28 runs today. Like they were balling in both games offensively. And even in the second game, like Burks hits that home run in the seventh to make it a 5-run game. And you're like, all right, like I know all season long their MO has been blowing games, but you're like, man, they might like if Devin Burks is out here hitting home runs, who was 2 for 40
Yeah.
heading into this regional, it's like, man, things are looking good for these guys. And then just man, an epic meltdown. I think West Virginia had two. Yeah, they had a 6-run fourth inning and a 6-run eighth inning. So 12 of their 13 runs come in 2 innings. Just just devastating. Just a meltdown of epic proportions, and there really wasn't a more fitting way for this season to end. I think that was the 12th one-run loss of the season. Um, the Vanderbilt series, you see the two blown leads there. That this isn't a new thing. This has happened all year long. Whether it's freaking Western Kentucky, they blew that lead. Man, just really disappointing. I don't know. They might have overachieved by getting to the Clemson regional final. But man, just going out like this is really disappointing. I'm joined by Derek Terry of Bad Cat Central, Aaron Gershon of the Cat's Paws. Aaron, first I'll get your quick thoughts on everything, and then I'll throw it over to Derek.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed a lot of it. It kind of just sums up what it's been the story of the season. It was what was it? They led in 28 of their 31 SEC games, counting the SEC tournament against Oklahoma, and they only come away with 13 wins. So they blew 15 leads in SEC play, or at least games that they led at some point. All the one-run losses, and this game, the same exact thing happening twice in the same game is just wild. But the one in the bottom of the eighth is just an all timer because you not only were there two outs, it's first and second two outs. Like that's a situation where even if you give up a run, it's not the end of the world, but you feel like you should be in pretty good shape. But you have the walk there to believe it was Hussey who had come in and pinch hit earlier, almost at a grand slam that tied it in the sixth, I believe. And then another walk, and it's 12-8, and it kind of just all fell apart from there. And one of the more underrated moments in that inning as well was James McCoy, who comes in from first base to pitch with first and second still 12-10 at that point in favor of Kentucky. And again, runners on first and second, two outs, and he has a wild pitch there that puts the runners into scoring position, and then you give up the single on a 3-2 pitch. So just kind of sums up what this year has been for Kentucky. Obviously they did a really good job of bouncing back after they lost the first game. They stave off elimination with that USC Upstate game that they led early, blew the lead, were able to cut back on top and stay on top, and then just absolutely whooped the host this morning, but just not enough there tonight to close it out.
Yeah, Daniel, you said something at the end that I'm actually writing about right now that I'm trying to. I don't know how to peg this team. This has been one of the strangest teams to follow.
Right.
They had to replace so much from last year's team. I talked a little bit about this yesterday when we were when I was still at the stadium. I think there's a macro view and a micro view. In the micro, this was a very disappointing season in terms of how some of the losses played out. They had a lot of close losses. This team, really, you don't have to stretch that far to say they could have been like a 17-win SEC team. I don't think they had the talent of a 17-win SEC team. I don't think that at any point should have been the expectation. So you can't say that they overachieved because they only won 29 regular season games. But it was just a weird year. And when you have that many one-run losses, it makes it hard to kind of pinpoint exactly what they could have been or what they should have been. But I feel like now that it's over, they made it as far as they probably should have. I don't know that this should have been a regional winning team. And it's tough to see, both the losses to West Virginia. were avoidable in a sense. I didn't think they played well on Friday. I don't know that West Virginia felt like they played well either. This game was just, you look at this box score. Um, I feel bad for one player in particular because his career ended, and I did not think he had a good regional at all, and that was Jackson Novy.
Yeah.
Did not get an out in either game. He only faced the one batter. Threw a wild pitch, though, on Friday when he came in there. Today, doesn't get an out, only faces 3 batters. That, when you look at what happened after, that's like the number one thing from this game. Whenever you start looking at how the meltdown occurred, look at some of these names that threw this game, guys. Henschel, Adcock had to come back out there. He threw once already. Hayden Smith, McCoy had to get in there. They had 3 guys pitch tonight who didn't record an out, and they didn't face a lot of batters necessarily, but Novy kind of started that chain, and I'm disappointed for him because he had a really good season, I thought. A good career. I mean, that was a key piece for 3 seasons. Every tournament team they had, he was a part of, and that made it tough. And honestly, if they held on, you probably would have seen him tomorrow. So he would have had one more chance to redeem himself. But yeah, I don't have anything else to add in terms of how that game played out. I think you guys kind of covered it. My big picture look was just like, this was a hard team to figure out. I don't know.
It seems like the teams in the past 2 years for sure have had like the guys that out of the bullpen that you trust to come in and get you out. It's like last year's Robert Hogan. Year before was Austin Strickland. Like Johnny Hummel's another name. Even Novy's been really good for a while. Evan Byers has been really good for a while. It just seems like this year they didn't really have that guy. Like Gregerson was good in spurts. But then he'd go out and gave up the walk-off to Vandy, and his control issues were kind of everywhere. And same with Novy. Novy started off the season really strong. I think he had, in his first few starts, I think he had the most strikeouts per 9 in the SEC for a bit. But, man, his control has really been rough down the stretch of the season. And it's been tough to see. I thought Nate Harris did good this morning. Scott Rouse. So that's a piece going forward that I think could be really good for Kentucky. I think Scott Rouse was really good. I believe he may have been pulled a little early, in my opinion. Tyler Bell had that error that kind of let that inning go, but
as an aside,
gotten out of there. Yeah,
I like that we're saying that it was this morning. Whenever the game was ended at 3:00. This is such a long day. This game took almost 5 hours.
Yeah, just about.
Game. But it felt like the other game happened this morning. I mean, it's a long day of ball.
I am running on absolute fumes after yesterday, and then working on 3 shift tomorrow night till last night till 1 in the morning, and then today getting here at 10:30, and now I'm sitting here and it's 11:35, and getting up in the morning and heading back. It's been a really long trip, but it's been good. It's a good way to kind of wrap up the 3 years of covering the team. I told Derek this I think I told you this too, Aaron, last year when they went to Omaha. I was like, just win one.
Yeah.
Like make the trip worth it. Just win one.
Yes.
And by far the best moment of the season was this morning at 3:00. I mean, just put the spanking on Clemson. Just see all these guys emerging. I was telling my guy Derek yesterday, president of the Hudson Brown fan club. That dude should have played more this season.
Yeah,
it's really upsetting. I think Gargett was the DH for the last month and a half of the season.
That's right.
Brown playing some spot appearances, but I think he's really good. I think he can be really good in the future. I mean, he smoked that 2-run bomb to right field. We were down there talking to him yesterday. That's a big dude, and he's a redshirt freshman. He's like 6'4", 240. Like, that's the guy you build on. Tyler Bell, although he had a bad regional. I will say that.
I don't think he was the same after he fouled that ball off his knee.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, you could see just the way that he was feeling. It looked like he was maybe worried of it hitting off of that spot. And he was kind of sidestepping and kind of, I don't know, it just didn't seem as fluid. Man, one thing we haven't touched on, the errors from all 3 teams that played today. UK had some errors.
So sloppy.
Good God. Clemson with 7 errors. West Virginia, I think, had 5 errors.
5.
It's like we're at you're in the NCAA tournament regional, and even as something as simple as in the Clemson game, that dude just a routine pop fly down the left field line just pops out of his glove. So,
that was a disaster. Clemson just had a day from they'll want to forget that. But you touched on one thing about with Hudson Brown. That is what's exciting for Kentucky, this time around. Obviously, last year, not a lot to complain about. You get to Omaha for the first time, you win a game out there, but you have so many pieces coming back, or at least eligible to come back from this year's roster. I think we all have to, keep an eye on the transfer portal, just because there are going to be teams that are going to be floating money around at guys like Tyler Bell. Like, that's just what it is. But Ben Cleaver obviously has 2 years left of eligibility. Luke Lawrence has another year. Carson Hansen has another year. Bell has 3 years, probably going to play 2 years left in college, because he'll get drafted again 2 years from now. Just so many different pieces that can come back next year, and there's a lot to build on. And we talked about, we're gauging, like, did this team overachieve? Did they underachieve? They probably lived up to, they kind of probably finished where they belonged, if not maybe overachieved slightly just in this regional. But there's a lot to build on with this roster, where last year you had to bring in 29 to 30 pieces. So that is the exciting part. It stings for, like you said, Derek, the way that Jackson Dovey's career ended. Obviously Devin Burks had a great night, but losing this painful fashion, Patrick O'Hara, the other seniors on the squad. But there's a lot to build on, which is exciting, I'm sure, for Miggione and co.
It's also the end of a very long baseball career of Nick McKay, which started back in 2019.
That's right.
So he's no longer. I don't think he's got another year in there anywhere.
No.
I will say one thing to keep in mind for next year's team with the draft rules. Tyler Bell and Ryan Schwartz are both draft eligible after next season.
Yes.
So, you might have to expedite. You don't have a whole lot more time with these guys. Schwartz, we'll see. Bell's certain that he's playing one more year of college baseball, and he'll be drafted. But there is a lot. Daniel, I'll give you your props, because I was openly questioning you in the press box yesterday on Brown. I was like, what do you like so much about Hudson? I think he was like a 252 hitter going into yesterday. Not a whole lot of power. He is a young player. Did anyone solidify their status potentially more than him?
No.
Throw out Lawrence is a given. Bell
is
a given. I think Schwartz is a given for next year's team. Hudson, you got like this tier of players, I think, like the Caius Gargett, Ethan Hendel's been hurt. Griffin Cameron, you can probably throw in there, and Hudson Brown. And it's like, they got to play this year, but do you feel so good about those guys that you wouldn't try to go and try to upgrade in the portal? Like, I think that's a key question they're going to have to ask themselves. And Brown, I think Brown made a pretty strong case that, like, he's a guy who could handle this job next year at first base if you give him 200-something at-bats in a season. So that'll be interesting to see. He played very well, and he was – I don't know. Have they done an all-region team? He might have made it. I don't know.
I heard them mentioning it as I was walking out. I'm not sure who else. I heard Lawrence made it. I heard McCoy made it at first. I'm not sure who else was on there.
Maybe Hudson needed one more game, because he didn't play Friday, right? I don't think.
No, he did not. I don't believe.
Yeah.
I thought Carson Hansen was
he had 8 RBIs, yeah.
Yeah, Hansen's another one that maybe at times this season he could have put in the same category because he didn't play all the time. That's a guy that you probably feel just fine about being a starter in the program next year. I would like to get him out of center field, by the way. I would like to get him out of center.
Yes.
He's not a center fielder.
He's a corner. He's a corner.
They had Hage there in left field this year, and the way it worked with Schwartz. Schwartz is really not a natural outfielder. I mean, he caught his whole life, I think, up until he got to college. So just with the way that the lineups kind of were shaking out, it made the most sense for Hansen to be out there in center. I think you would feel a little bit better with Hansen in a corner and probably Schwartz as well. If he's going to stay in the outfield, it'll be in a corner spot. So that'll be – if you're looking for a portal area to address, catcher's like the most obvious. They're going to have to get probably multiple catchers. But I think center field might be another one that is I would almost say an obvious spot they need to look to add somebody.
Dan, I have the Kentucky players that made the all-regional team were McCoy, Lawrence, Hansen, Hage. Hudson Brown did make it, and then Ethan won.
Yeah. I was going to say Hudson Brown, I think he had 8 RBIs. In 3 games. And the only reason that he played is because Bell was out and Gargett went from DH to shortstop. So, like you said, Derek, I think that's a guy that's really improved his stock, that's opened up some eyes. hey, maybe this is a guy like I don't know anything, but if James McCoy is, I don't know what his situation is, you can maybe feel more comfortable if he wants to go elsewhere. And I mean, you feel like you might be okay with that spot, and maybe just bringing in another first baseman to kind of platoon with Hudson. I don't know. We'll see. But I did something we haven't touched on is so this team makes it to the regional final. They fall. This is a team that had a going into this season had a really good reputation for NIL and transfer portal. Like the guys that they had brought in over the past few seasons have been really quality additions. Like last year, Ryan Nicholson, the years before Hunter Gillum, Jackson Gray, Nick Lopez was an all SEC first team guy. Trey Poozer was dominant in the postseason last year. All these guys that they've swung and hit on. But when you look at this year's team, Dylan Kuntz started off the season at first base, and he didn't even dress out this week. I mean, I'm trying to think who else. Sean Montoya is another guy that was pegged to be your starting center fielder, and for the back half of the season, he was pinch hitting and pinch running and taking over in the outfield. I would say Nick McKay, transfer-wise, is probably – Cole Hage was really good. Nick McKay was really good. Lawrence is good to build on. But they've been really good at getting those players that are one-year rentals to help benefit the team. And it seems like this year they were banking on that again, and they didn't get that. And that's another thing. Like, if you were to ask Nick Mingione after that first Lipscomb game what the lineup would look like in their Clemson regional final, this would not be it. Hudson Brown would not be in there. Ryan Schwartz would likely not be in there. Carson Hansen, I'm not sure if he'd be in there. James McCoy would not be at first base. I mean, Eli Small was still on the team at that time. That's a guy that would have contributed as well if he was still here. So the team and the program maybe misstepped a bit. So that's why I'm also saying that this is probably right where they expect. Like, this is just getting here, like winning 2 games here, getting to the final. I mean, if they were to hold on tonight, they'd be playing for a super regional tomorrow. Like, that's ridiculous thinking. Like, we've sat here and watched this team all year pulling her hair out, and it's like this is a team that can't hold the lead. They got dominated by a Mississippi State team that didn't have a coach. Lost to Murray State, which Murray State's really good now. We've seen, and some other mid-majors. Lipscomb beat them. But, yeah, I would say this team probably ended up right where they should have been, in my opinion.
Yeah, hard to argue any of that. And, yeah, I mean, look, when you have – obviously they've added a lot through the portal the last 2 years, but I don't have the number in front of me of just how many guys they added through the portal. I know obviously they added freshmen too to get to that number of 30 or whatever it was newcomers, but you had to replace 7 of your 9 starters. Opening day 1 was a freshman, the rest were transfers. Starting rotation had to replace that whole rotation. You ended up replacing that. I guess by the end of it was one freshman, a returner, and a transfer. You had transfers, and at that point, there was just more room for error with the transfer portal, and you definitely got some good pieces out of it. I mean, we talked about Hanson, talked about Lawrence, those guys who have another year, but yeah, they definitely didn't hit at the same rate as they have in the past, and they had more bodies to go get, so it made it even more difficult. I think that's the exciting element of next year, assuming you can keep all your key pieces out of that portal.
Yeah, that's a good point, because think about next year. Even if you try to, let's just say that the general philosophy here is, they want to add power bats. They don't care about the position. They just want to add somebody. Well, even if it's a first baseman, the fallback option next year, at least going into the fall, you'll have a guy like Hudson Brown who you would say is theoretically competing for the starting job. Whereas this year, I went to quite a few of the fall practices. He did have a lingering hamstring injury too, so he wasn't always out there. But I don't think it was ever realistic that he was going to be a guy that you thought would probably be a starting player, this year. So having a guy like that with that experience, I think, is a pretty good example of what Aaron's talking about. I think is spot on. Like, you had to replace a lot, and you're not going to sign 20 guys that are all great players. I mean, you're not going to sign that in a high school class. You're not going to sign that in the portal. The more you got to go get, the more, the more risk there's going to be. So that's why I'm fascinated to see. Like, I think there are going to be guys that they'll want to keep that might be 2 years into the program now and aren't sure if they're going to be a starter. And it's just time for them to decide, like, do I want to go somewhere where I'm going to play every day, or do I want to stay here and keep, like we've seen the coaching staff's willing to play a lot of guys. If guys aren't performing, you're going to have injuries at some point. Like, they'll play people. So do they want to take their chance and see what happens next year? Like, I think a guy like Gargette's perfect because, yeah, he could probably compete for third next year. He's not going to play shortstop or second if Lawrence and Bell are healthy. Maybe he could go somewhere else, like on the team. Like, maybe he could try the outfield or something. Like, I think he would play next year is what I'm trying to say. I don't know where exactly, but I think he would get chances. But he could probably also, like, look around in the portal and have have a good shot to play somewhere else. Like, those are just – I used to not really talk that much about transfer stuff because, it used to be kind of taboo to, like, talk about guys who might leave. But now it's like, I mean,
you have to.
It's just normal roster stuff now. It's just like what makes
even
sense
Minge touched on it post game. He was talking about transfers and seeing they were having meetings and all that stuff. Like, it's out there. It's not really hidden anymore.
That's not me saying I don't think Caius is good enough to play here or should leave or anything like that. I'm just like, he's one of the guys that pops up in my mind. That's like, he's going to be a junior next year. He's not solidified a spot here yet. There are guys that are still ahead of him, but if he were to leave, theoretically, like, that's a spot you're going to have to replace it for UK. Even if you have the profiles like a backup type infielder, that's not going to be I don't know if you'll be able to replace that spot with someone as good as Caius, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. So I don't know if I'm weird in the sense that I love this time of year. My favorite part of it is the off season, is seeing how the roster comes together. I enjoy it so much. And so I'm fascinated to see how it plays out. And we're all 3 Eastern time zone. It's about to be Monday, 10 minutes from now, and this is when the portal opens. So
that's right. Yeah.
You'll see names going in, excuse me, from Kentucky. You'll see, I don't know if they're going to be getting commitments tomorrow or anything like that, but, like, you'll start figuring out what the board's going to be, and it'll be quick here because the draft's in the middle of July. And next thing you know, I mean, you'll have a really good idea here in about 6 weeks of what this 2026 team is going to look like. And I would be excited. I mean, I would tell Kentucky fans who are out there that it's natural tonight to be really disappointed with how, I mean, that sucked. I mean, just to be blunt, you had a 5-run lead and needed 6 more outs. And I mean, hell, you needed 1 more out, right? Because you had 2 already.
Literally needed 1 out.
The 8th. And it didn't go their way. And it's natural to be upset about that. But I still think the program, I've been around a little bit longer than you guys have, like, that they made the tournament in a year like this, I think says so much about the growth of the program. And I think there's still a lot to be excited about. And next season should be one that, depending on how these next 6 weeks or so shake out, I think they're going to have a lot of people excited about what next season could bring.
Yeah, it's 30 straight or 4 straight 30-win seasons. Minge, I'm not sure if you all got to see Minge post game, but I asked him about the young pieces and all that stuff. And he did say he would not be shocked if they're a top 10 team going into next season. So he did call a shot. He really likes his talent. And it's just now it's going to be about, like you said, Derek, like, figuring out what to do with these guys, like a Caius Gargett or a Griffin Cameron or just someone in the bullpen and the pitching staff, a Hayden Smith or Niall Adcock. I think he has eligibility. It's all about fitting those pieces together. And then they have a really good freshman class coming in led by Owen Jenkins. It's going to be a lot of work, but not as much work as it was last season when you lose 7 of your 9 offensive starters. You got just McCoy and Burks back, and you lose your whole rotation, lose most of your bullpen other than Novi and Byers. So I think that the program's in a good spot. I think I saw you, Derek, that you said that you thought the 22 team was better and they didn't make the tournament. So that just kind of shows the reputation this program has garnered when they've just got 29 wins. But you've seen what they've done the last 2 seasons, and they've kind of got that respect now where it's like this is a program that isn't really like a stepping stone anymore. They can do, like, I mean, you saw they got to Omaha last year. So they're on the up and up. I'll wrap things up. We'll get out of here. It's late. I think one of 5 people left in this stadium. Real quick, I want to touch on the West Virginia fans. The West Virginia fans suck. They suck. Post game, I felt so bad for the interns that were running around. They were all screaming at them because they were playing One More Time by Daft Punk, like on loop, and they were screaming at these poor college kids to play Country Roads and like angry, like these mountain mamas were angry and running these people down. And we were in the interview room and they were like running in there for solace because they were bloodthirsty. And I was talking to like the Clemson SID and he was talking about how rude they were last night to them. So it sucks to see a team like that. Like I would put their fans in the same category as like a Tennessee or something.
Ouch.
Yeah. So
They had such a strange regional. I feel like this West Virginia team, like they had to rally every game. Nothing was easy, and yet they went 3-0. Like I don't know, it was weird.
And you got to give major props to Griffin Kern, their ace, 118 pitches less than 48 hours or like 48 hours ago, and it comes in like that's what makes college baseball great, man. You never see that in obviously, I think we're all big MLB fans, but you don't see that. You don't see that anywhere else.
That's why I brought up the thought. Yeah, I brought up the thought of Cleaver. Maybe like if they were up 12-11, like if you wanted to throw him out there in the ninth, but
that would be the Kentucky comparison there.
They bring Bumgarner in the World Series in 15 kind of equivalent.
Yeah.
In a different world where they're still playing, who do we think Kentucky would have started tomorrow?
Oh man,
maybe Ethan Walker. That's who I thought. Maybe his pitch, like it was close yesterday. He threw a lot. Like he was right on that 64. Fringe. I think he would have pitched tomorrow, but I don't.
Let's see.
I don't know.
Or if you went bullpen, like maybe start Hayden Smith or Leighton. I mean, it doesn't matter. Right?
Walker threw 62 against Upstate. So
yeah,
it would have been a fun discussion, but couldn't get that one out in the 8th inning.
Yep. All right, that'll do it. UK finishes 31-26. Just an up and down season. They would go on these runs or stretches where it's like, okay, they're getting their stuff together. Like the Tennessee series win, they finished their home series by sweeping Oklahoma, and then you see what they do against Vanderbilt, Mississippi State. The Ole Miss series is one they easily could have won and let go away. The Auburn series, Tyler Bell catches a fly ball, they win that series. Texas, they were right there. I mean, they were right there with all of these teams, and I'm not going to say that it's really impressive because we've seen how the SEC is faring in the tournament so far. Vanderbilt's gone, Texas is gone. Just that weird season. That's what I'll say. I would describe the last 3 seasons. 23 was surprising. Last year was convincing as a program, and this year was just up and down, topsy-turvy, rebuilding. You don't know what you're going to get. It's Jekyll and Hyde team. Like the team that showed up today has not been there all year. Like this team came out of nowhere.
They did everything. You're talking about Jekyll and Hyde. They showed everything today. They showed they can be dominant. They showed, and they just did everything. They did everything in the same day. They had some really good pitching in the first game. There are even some outside of 2 innings. You said it, Dan. Like they allowed 12 runs in 2 different innings. So you even got some really good pitching at times from Rouse in this game, and Gregerson gave you a really good 2 1/3 innings there. Like you had a little bit of everything from this team just today alone. I think today was just a perfect summary of the season. It you hate that it ended again a 5-run lead, but it kind of is it's poetic in many ways.
Yeah. Poetic is the word I would use. But we'll get out of here. The season is over. I'm signing off from Doug Kingsmore Stadium. Thank you to Derek and Aaron both for joining me. We'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.